Every modern movie uses music to drive an emotion and scene, whether that emotion is happy, sad, angry, or anything in between. There's music out there that will accentuate that emotion further. Take this iconic scene from Interstellar, for example.
Murphy stole Grandpa's car. She crashed it. She's okay though.
The famous Hans Zimmer made this amazing piece of music about what it feels like to be a father. When asked to compose his piece, he was only shown the scene in the form of a script. This was a strategic move from the director in forcing Hans to create this solely on the dialogue he was presented with.
Saying hi. Finished second in school. This curlic's still giving me C's, so pulled me down, but second's not bad.
Watching the main character, Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, break down as he realises that he has missed the majority of his children's lives due to leaving them when they were young to go on a space mission to save humanity makes the scene just that more emotional.
Name's Lois. Sarah right there. Murphy stole Grandpa's car. She crashed it.
Choosing the right music to enhance the emotion of your film is one of the most important decisions a filmmaker has to decide. Choose the wrong music, and it can completely ruin the scene and take away any dramatic effect that was once there.
What are you doing up here? Of course, I'm glad to see you. I always am. What is it, Marion?
There have been hundreds of revolutionary directors over the years, and there will be hundreds more to come in the future. However, one of the most iconic directors to this day is Alfred Hitchcock, with such films as Rear Window, Vertigo, and North by Northwest. Hitchcock's most well-known film will have to be Psycho, the story of a young woman who steals $40,000 from her employer to pay off her boyfriend's debts. While escaping with the money, she is forced to pull into a motel due to bad weather and poor visibility. The motel is where she will be brutally murdered, unlinked to the stolen money. The music you are hearing now is the Genius String Ensemble composed by Bernard Herrmann. This piece signals the presence of a psycho. The music contains both major and minor chords to make the audience feel unsettled and uneasy. It represents the nerve that the character Marion is undergoing, partnered with her facial expressions, showing fear and dread of getting caught with the stolen money.
Charlie.
She looked like a wrong one to you?
Acted like one.
The only funny thing, she paid me $700.
This may not seem scary to modern generations, but that's only because we are spoiled with highly budgeted CGI, special effects, and jump scares.
I can still hear that voice.
Not many modern films can create such a spine-tingling impression forced upon the audience primarily using music.
Yes, Mr. Lowry.
As with those examples you just saw, each have something in common. Those scenes use visuals to scare the audience. It's very upfront and in your face. However, in the film Psycho, the only visuals paired with this music is the character staring deeply into the camera, and yet, because of the music, it still creates the same effect.
I'm not taking the responsibility.
That's a really tough one because music is such a huge part of a film and making it good. I would say, for me personally, Requiem for a Dream.
You know something? I always thought you were the most beautiful girl I ever seen.
Really?
The soundtrack for that is Clint Mansell and the Kronos Quartet, and that film and the soundtrack to the film just combined to really kind of make for an intense feeling.
I'm somebody now, Harry. Everybody likes me. Soon, millions of people will see me and they'll all like me. I'll tell them about you, your father, how good he was to us. Remember? It's a reason to get up in the morning.
And it really kind of heightened the emotions on screen. A very good score. It's kind of lost its impact a little bit now because the music has been used in lots of trailers and things like that. So you've probably heard it, but not within its original context. Very important. It's not the be-all and end-all. You can still create emotion through other ways, through angles, through different lenses even. But music obviously has a huge part to play. If you try and imagine Star Wars without the John Williams score, it may not have been as successful because the music really sells it. It really kind of makes that film what it is. Again, a really tricky one because there's a lot of psychology involved. There's even a lot of science involved as well. Kind of how certain tones can trigger certain parts of the brain into feeling certain things. But ultimately, you're telling the story, and you've got to use maybe musical cues to kind of draw the audience's attention to something, or maybe you just got to use a certain pitch, to trigger a certain emotion. I couldn't sort of go into exact examples because I don't know the psychology, but yeah, a lot of it's going to be down to pacing, the pitch, the kind of the tempo of things to help create emotion. The first person that comes to mind is Hitchcock, and really because he was one of the first people I can think of that was really properly experimenting with music and sound. If you kind of look at Psycho, and I remember one of the things he wanted the shower scene to sound like was he wanted it to sound like knives. And he said, okay, well, what if we, in our orchestra, we only have the things like the violins, we get rid of the kind of bass instruments and stuff like that, and we just have the kind of higher pitched instruments, and it really worked, particularly during that sequence. But then Hitchcock also experimented with not having any non-diegetic music in The Birds, so The Birds hasn't got any non-diegetic music throughout the entirety of its running time, which again is a real kind of experiment to see whether you can still portray emotion and feelings without having that obvious soundtrack on there.